ISRO, a third world country's successful answer to a space program. You've probably already more than once heard somebody say it's not rocket science when they wanted to say that something isn't that hard to do, which implies that rocket science is hard to do. You need top-notch scientists and loads of funding to participate in one of humanity's greatest adventures. The space industry has been traditionally advanced by well-developed nations, mostly Western countries with big money and the needed know-how to do rocket science. Today I want to talk to you about an exception to that rule. This is one of those topics I wanted to get out, as I think it should be talked about more here on YouTube. I even had comments on some episodes that I should give it more love. I hear you. So here's my answer to that call. An in-depth update on ISRO and all the plans and programs for India's future in space. So what about it? What is ISRO and what are they doing and will be doing in the future? ISRO is the Indian Space Research Organization, similar to the United States NASA. Founded in 1969, ISRO is older than ESA. In recent years, the Indian government has made it a priority goal to strengthen India's space program and make first strides in exploring the solar system. Next, for example, ISRO will launch Chandrayaan-2, India's first lunar lander. I'm going to separate this episode into a few main categories, so let's get started. The organization. ISRO has 17,000 employees working on many different projects in many different facilities all over India. ISRO calls 3 launch sites their own. The biggest facility with 5,600 employees and the biggest launch site is the Satish Dhawan Space Center, located on the island of Sriharikota in southern India. Space exploration. If everything goes as planned, Chandrayaan-2 will launch from Satish Dhawan Space Center today on July 22nd. And it will already be ISRO's second mission to the Moon. In 2008, the ISRO already launched Chandrayaan-1, a lunar probe. It was supposed to search for water ice on the lunar surface for at least 2 years. After 312 days, the mission encountered technical difficulties and ISRO lost contact. Still, the mission was considered a great success for ISRO. This time they will explore the Moon's south pole with an orbiter, a lander called Vikram and a rover called Pragyan. This will make India the 4th country in the world after the US, Russia and China to soft land a rover on the Moon. Originally planned for a launch on July 15th, the mission had to be stopped at T-56 minutes due to a faulty component resulting in a critical helium gas leak that would have caused a catastrophic failure of the mission. Chandrayaan-2's mission is to do a soft landing on the Moon's south pole and study the surface of the Moon. The rover is supposed to identify minerals and indicators of water molecules, and the orbiter is supposed to study the density of electrons in the Moon's ionosphere. As with many other nations who recently started to focus their research on the Moon, India also is exploring possible resources on the Moon. All of these research missions lately are an indication for the growing interest in the Moon, not only for scientific reasons, but also to gain a possible foothold in a future space economy. China has paid a visit to our Moon for the second time just half a year ago with exactly the same goals. Chang'e 3 touched down in 2013 and Chang'e 4 on the far side of the Moon and sent back some impressive pictures in January this year. Chang'e 5 is planned for December this year on board a Long March 5 rocket. It will carry a lander and a return craft to bring up to 2 kilograms of samples from the Moon back to Earth. And yes, India wants to be part of this movement too. India is fairly new to the space exploration business, even though they are making very good progress. If that's not impressive enough, India also launched their Mars Orbiter mission in 2014, which was also called Mangalyaan or Mars Traveler, and the whole mission cost less than making the Hollywood movie The Martian. On September 24, 2018, MOM completed 4 years in its orbit around Mars. Although the designed mission life was only 6 months, over these years MOM's Mars Color camera has captured over 980 images that were released to the public. The probe is still in good health and continues to work nominally. And in 2018, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced to the public that by 2022, when India celebrates its 75th year of independence, 3 Indian astronauts are supposed to fly into orbit on board Gaganyaan, India's crew capsule, which is in development right now and has already passed first tests. Launch vehicles. ISRO is steadily improving their launch vehicles. For example, Chandrayaan-2 is launching on a GSLV Mark III. ISRO has a very intuitive way of naming their launch vehicles. Right now they are using the PSLV or Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle and the GSLV or Geostationary Launch Vehicle. GSLV Mark III, which will be used to get Chandrayaan-2 on its trajectory towards the Moon, is an updated and more capable version of ISRO's medium launch vehicle. Instead of liquid-fueled side boosters, it uses two massive solid boosters with 200 tons of propellant each, giving the vehicle a total launch weight of 630 tons and a GTO payload capacity of 4 to 5 tons, which is more than half of what a Falcon 9 can do. And an even more powerful update with 4 solid boosters and a more capable core stage is already in development. These are some impressive numbers if you're considering that India has far less funding than other competitors. Even Elon Musk acknowledged how impressed he is with India's cost-saving methods of conducting successful launches. Last year, in February, for example, India launched 104 satellites into space using a single rocket. A total of 88 of those satellites were from the San Francisco-based company Planet, using the satellites for imaging purposes. The mission was a huge success, a world record India holds until today. Reusability. ISRO has also been working on reusable launch vehicles. Right now they're pursuing two different ways of reducing launch cost and raising frequency. Their first test approach is RLVTD, or Reusable Launch Vehicle Test Demonstrator. It is a scaled-down prototype of an eventual two-stage-to-orbit reusable launch vehicle, and it has a unique approach. Not unlike the well-known Space Shuttle, it's a glider designed to reach space, deploy a payload, and then glide down through the atmosphere and use aerodynamics to steer and eventually land and be reused. It was successfully launched in 2016. What makes it unique, though, is the approach of being directly attached to the top of a booster rocket. It just sits on top of a regular booster rocket like a traditional second stage. In theory, if the booster can be recovered too, this would make the system fully reusable. Where we come to project number 2, Admire. Not much is known yet, but it looks like another understandable try to imitate SpaceX's vertical takeoff and landing abilities, not unlike a Falcon 9 booster. Basically a rocket with retractable legs and some sort of steerable fins to guide the rocket back down to a landing zone after separation. The conclusion. If you look at the ISRO in depth, it is surprising to see that a country that is otherwise not very well developed has a space program worthy of the name. The Indian Space Research Organization has all the components it needs to be successful. It has had many milestones, from reaching the Moon and other planets to being on the brink of manned spaceflight. ISRO is innovative, holds world records, and has enough drive for change and adaptation to transition into the age of reusable launch vehicles. Look out, NASA, Roscosmos, and ESA. ISRO is approaching fast on a direct trajectory. Good luck, ISRO and India. So this again wraps up today's episode of What About It? Will Chandrayaan-2 have a soft landing on the Moon, and will India send astronauts into space by 2022? As always, tell me in the comments. The Patreon community is growing further, and so I have the honor to read out new names to add to the group of those who support the channel beyond likes, subscribes, and comments. This week we have special mentions for Nick Borders, Joe, and Yvonne Desailly. Thank you so much for supporting me. It is much appreciated. Thank you for watching this episode of What About It? If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and like, as this helps me the most. Feel free to hit me up on my Patreon page so I can get additional help in doing more and better content, as this gives me the time to focus on what I love doing the most, to bring you the latest and greatest about space and science. I hope to see you on the next episode. Until then, have a great time. The organization. Sriharikota. Sriharikota? The island of Sriharikota. On September? Anyone? Although even Elon Musk. ISRO has also been working on reusable vehicles. Yeah, most vehicles are reusable. Nope. What?